There's a cooling trick you can use right now that costs absolutely nothing. It has the potential to lower your home's temperature by up to 6 degrees, and it requires no electricity, no machines, and no effort of any kind. This principle is called cross-ventilation, and builders in the Middle East, West Africa, Southeast Asia, and the southern United States were using it long before the electrical grid existed. Here's what you need to know to create more comfortable indoor temperatures while cutting your summer cooling bill. For hundreds of years, in desert, jungle, and coastal climates, ancient civilizations realized that if air could be made to circulate through a building, it could become livable. The most sophisticated example of this principle appeared in the hot, arid cities of present-day Iran. Since at least the 14th century, builders there constructed what they called a badgir, a tower-like structure rising above the roofline designed specifically to catch wind at greater heights, where it blows faster and more consistently than at ground level. When the wind blew, the tower acted as a pressure-driven intake, channeling air down into the rooms of the house. In the cities of Yazd and Kashan, buildings designed around this system have remained in continuous use for more than 600 years. On the other side of the world, in Borneo and Vietnam, builders arrived at a different but equally effective solution. In the humid tropics, the problem wasn't dry heat, but stagnant humidity. The answer was the longhouse, a dwelling raised on stilts above the damp ground with a wide, open floor plan and no internal walls to block airflow. In West Africa, the Dogon used aligned doorways and large, shaded openings to create a permanent cross-breeze indoors. And when West Africans arrived in the Americas, this architectural knowledge came with them. The result was the shotgun house, which became the dominant residential form in the southern United States in the 19th century. A shotgun house arranges all rooms in a single line, with the front and back doors aligned in a straight path. When both are open, the house becomes a wind tunnel, letting air pass straight through the building without interruption. The dogtrot house took this principle even further. 2 separate living units were connected by an open central passage under one shared roof. This passage was shaded and open at both ends, making it permanently the coolest part of the building. Since it was the point of lowest pressure in the structure, it continuously drew air out of the rooms on both sides, creating a natural exhaust that made the adjacent spaces livable without any mechanical cooling system. The physics behind all these designs was formalized in 1738 by a Swiss mathematician named Daniel Bernoulli. His observation was this: as a fluid moves faster, its pressure drops. In a building, this relationship has a direct architectural consequence. Wind circulating at greater height moves faster than wind near the ground, which is slowed by trees, terrain, and surrounding structures. Faster air means lower pressure. A window or opening placed high on a wall, or in a skylight raised above the main roofline, sits right in that low pressure zone. Air inside the building gets pulled toward that opening, creating a natural exhaust path even without any mechanical assistance. The pressure difference between the windward side of a building and the opposite side is what drives airflow through the interior. Research shows that when openings make up between 15% and 20% of the wall area, the speed of wind passing through them can be up to 18% higher than the local outdoor wind speed. The building acts like a funnel, compressing airflow through restricted openings and accelerating it in the process. If those openings become too large, exceeding roughly 60% of the wall area, that pressure difference collapses and ventilation becomes turbulent and disorganized. On windless days, the mechanism shifts to what engineers call the stack effect. Hot air is less dense than cold air, so it rises. In a building with openings at different heights, this density difference creates a vertical pressure gradient. Cold, dense air enters through lower openings and pushes warm interior air out through higher ones. The taller the building, and the greater the temperature difference between inside and outside, the stronger this suction becomes. Architects amplify this effect using solar chimneys, vertical shafts exposed to direct sunlight, often painted black or fitted with south-facing glass. The air inside heats up well above ambient temperature, creating an updraft that pulls fresh air through the building even on windless days. Countless variables determine how well any specific building will ventilate. Shallow rooms, with little depth between exterior walls, let air pass through the space without losing momentum. Window type also plays an important role. A casement window, for example, which opens fully and swings outward, acts like a scoop, redirecting the prevailing breeze into the room instead of simply letting it pass by outside. Building orientation also has a huge influence. A house whose longest wall is positioned perpendicular to the prevailing summer winds captures the greatest possible pressure difference on its facade, even before a single window is opened. Opening a few windows at home might seem too simple, but there's concrete data confirming how well cross-ventilation principles perform in real situations. In Mumbai, India, researchers studied the Kanchenjunga apartments, a tower project by architect Charles Correa that incorporated deep garden terraces on every floor to act as wind catchers. The study found that cross-ventilation reduced operative temperature by up to 9.5 degree hours on typical days and up to 11.5 degree hours on the hottest days of the year. The number of hours occupants experienced thermal discomfort dropped by 58%. And in a historic building in Seville, one of the hottest cities in continental Europe, researchers monitored the structure through an entire summer, coordinating the opening of windows and courtyards in a deliberate sequence. The building maintained an average indoor temperature of 5.4 degrees Celsius below the outdoor peak, with a measured cooling efficiency of 40%. In that case, occupant comfort hours improved by 30%. So the effectiveness of cross-ventilation has been proven, especially in lower humidity climates. Given that track record, why have American homes spent the last 70 years moving in exactly the opposite direction? As mechanical cooling spread through American homes, architects began eliminating the architectural elements that natural ventilation depended on. High ceilings, which let heat rise above the level where people live, were lowered to 8 feet to reduce the volume of air the HVAC system had to condition. Front porches, which offered shaded transition zones between indoors and outdoors, were eliminated in favor of the ranch house and the large picture window. Those big fixed glass panels let solar heat pour straight in, creating a greenhouse effect that increased the mechanical cooling load the system was, in theory, only supposed to supplement. By the late 1960s, air conditioning was already standard in most new American homes, and building design reflected that. Modern building codes then reinforced this trajectory from a regulatory standpoint. The International Energy Conservation Code now requires continuous air barriers, designed to prevent uncontrolled air movement. The logic is that a sealed building retains conditioned air and reduces the load on the mechanical system. But in sealing buildings against unwanted infiltration, codes also sealed them against intentional natural ventilation. There's also a direct economic reason behind house floor plans themselves. Cross-ventilation works best in shallow buildings, 1 or 2 rooms deep between exterior walls, or in L or U-shaped floor plans, so that every room has at least 2 exterior-facing walls. These shapes are more expensive to build. A single-story, 2,000 square foot ranch house that's easy to naturally ventilate can cost 10% to 20% more than a comparable 2-story house, due to the larger foundation and roof area. Even so, the knowledge of cross-ventilation is powerful and available to anyone willing to use it. As discussed, the most important decisions for natural ventilation are made before construction even begins. House orientation is the first variable. Research the prevailing summer winds in your region before finalizing the site layout. Free online databases, such as the U.S. Climate Consultant, provide data on prevailing winds by region and month. Orienting the house so its longest wall sits roughly perpendicular to those summer winds determines the pressure difference on the facade before a single window is even specified. Window type determines how much of that potential actually gets used. Casement windows are the most effective type for natural ventilation. A louvered or jalousie window with adjustable horizontal slats lets air pass through nearly the entire opening and can direct that flow upward, downward, or straight across the room, depending on the angle of the slats. For existing homes, the single most effective investment is a whole house fan. These are installed in the ceiling of a central hallway and pull air through all the open windows in the house, pushing it out through attic vents above. A properly sized whole house fan can lower indoor temperature by 4 to 6 degree bursts in under an hour. Installation costs range from $800 to $2,500, and operating costs are a small fraction of what a central air conditioning system uses over the same period. For anyone not planning any renovation, the principles behind the shotgun house and the badger can still be applied to almost any existing floor plan, using nothing more than an understanding of how air moves through a room. The first thing to understand is that cross-ventilation requires at least 2 openings, 1 for air to enter, 1 for it to exit. In a room with only 1 window, that window's effectiveness is limited to whatever air can enter and exit through the same point, but opening a door on the opposite side of the room completely changes that dynamic. Once air finds a clear path from one side of the room to the other, it starts moving with purpose instead of just pooling in place. The distance between these 2 openings matters just as much as their existence. Research suggests cross-ventilation works effectively in spaces up to 40 feet wide, but the shorter that distance, the faster and steadier the airflow over occupants will be. If a room feels stuffy despite open windows, the problem is often that the distance is too great, or that the path between openings is blocked by furniture or a partial wall. Repositioning a sofa or a bookshelf can change a room's airflow dynamics at no cost at all. The size ratio between the intake opening and the exit opening also changes the quality of airflow in a room. A smaller opening on the windward side, paired with a larger opening on the opposite side, increases airspeed as it passes through the interior. Air gets compressed, entering through the smaller opening and released into the room at higher speed. That increase in speed is what produces the cooling sensation on skin, making a breeze feel several degrees cooler than the air temperature alone would suggest. In hot, humid climates, this approach needs adjustment. Outdoor air let in during humid nights can raise indoor humidity enough to cancel out the temperature drop's benefit. In the southeastern United States, night ventilation works best on nights when outdoor humidity is lower and gets better results when paired with indoor dehumidification rather than used as a standalone strategy. Cross-ventilation is an approach built on an old principle. A building that lets air pass through it will always be cooler than one that doesn't. It lowers indoor air temperature without switching on a single mechanical system.